everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Allison Smith. If you're new here, I'm a pianist and a piano teacher, and thanks so much for joining me today. As a piano teacher, I have heard this saying many times. Can you guess what it is? I just could not practice the piano this week. I had my dog threw up, my cat needed surgery, I had to take my grandma to the mall, my Christmas tree fell down. Don't bother giving me an excuse because I've already heard it. But let me just admit, I have my own excuses. Because this Saturday, all 20-something of my students are having a piano recital. So getting all of that taken care of, it took a lot of my time, and it kind of took away some time from me practicing the piano. So how did I conquer this struggle between doing all of the things and managing piano practice during my week and crazy schedule? Today I decided I would create a video on how I practice the piano when I feel like time is running out, as many of my students claim, usually on a regular basis. So let's talk about it today. Alright, so we have a problem. We're running out of time. We know that piano practice is time consuming. So how are we going to narrow down this problem? Well, I have a piece that I'm working on and it's 6 pages long. In this case, that would be considered too many details, too overwhelming of a project to be working on when I might have a limited amount of time. So there are a couple things that we can do to mitigate this problem. I know that I'm struggling with the second 2 pages of my piece, and I can narrow it down further. I actually know certain sections that I need to practice more, certain things that take me a little bit more time, and if I spent even just 5 minutes, I would chip away at some of those problems, and it would actually make for a better long-term progress. The first thing that I would do is I'm going to practice hands separately for these 2 pages. If 2 pages is too much for you, then don't do 2 pages. If 1 page is too much, don't do 1 page. Maybe it might just be a couple of measures. Maybe that's all the time you have, but at least you're getting on it. This limits that barrier to entry, right? Once you start doing 2 hands and you get stressed out, just keep it simple. Do hands separately, especially if you're running out of time. At least you're isolating something and paying attention to something you might not have seen before. So I'm just going to look at the hands separately. Yeah, see, I made a mistake. It's a good thing. I mean, that only took 30 seconds for me to make a mistake. So imagine if I just did this for like 5 minutes, I had already solved my problem. And then even if I stopped at 5 minutes, I would have at least solved 1 problem. So let's go again. Here it is. And I solved it. So in just like 2.5 minutes, I've already uncovered something I might not have ever seen. And let's say I stop at 10 minutes, I feel like at least I accomplished something and I just chipped away. Even if it's just a little chip, it's still something. All right, let's keep going. And so I would just do that for the next 2 pages. And then I'm going to go to my right hand and do the same thing. Alright, so that's step 1, doing hand separate practice. I've only spent about maybe 6.5 minutes practicing. And I'm sure even if you do have a crazy busy schedule, you have 6 minutes. I know it. I know you might have 6 minutes. But let's say you really don't have any time for hand separate practice. Well, how about you do some monotonous repeated tasks? So for example, I see a section and I know I can drill that about 100 times. It's something that's not very interesting. It's more of an accompaniment pattern, but I know that if I spend time on it now, it'll save me from spending time on it the next day when I would rather enjoy working on something more fun. And so this is not really fun to me, but I know if I at least spend 5 minutes on a non-fun thing, I can spend at least 30 minutes on more fun tomorrow. Okay, so this is the non-fun thing for me. And then it's F. And when I saw Tiffany Poon playing that, she was just going like, oh. And I said, oh man, I'm gonna have to drill that 100 times to get there. So let's take 5 minutes right now. You only have 5 minutes. Take that 5 minutes and use it for something boring. Something like that I wouldn't have wanted to spend enormous amounts of time on in a practice session. So if I'm already limited for time and I only spend 5 minutes, at least I know it was 5 minutes well spent on something that I would have had to spend 5 minutes on, and now I feel really accomplished. Don't waste those precious 5 minutes on something that you're already good at. The whole idea of practice is practicing something you're not good at so that you can become better. The third thing that you can do is, let's say you don't have any time, like you don't even have a piano at home. Like maybe you're on vacation and you still want to get practice done. Well, what you can do is you can take your music and you can start analyzing it and saying, do I see a B chord here? Yeah. Do I see a D sharp 7, D sharp something? And you can start seeing patterns in your music. You can say, hey, have I seen this section before? And maybe circle it. Like for example, on Thanksgiving, I saw that this section right here, on Thanksgiving, I was really busy, and I noticed that this right here is the same thing as this. And I said, oh, that's cool. So when I go to practice it, I don't have to think of two different things, even though this one looks different than this. And then I don't know if you can tell, but over Thanksgiving, what I did was I wrote down some of the chords. So I wrote D sharp 7 and all of these different chord symbols. So you can just start analyzing your piece. I started writing notes about this piece. I know that this piece is called A Love Dream, and so I said, oh, okay, so it has a title. And I know that titles usually mean that it's a programmatic piece, meaning it's supposed to depict a non-musical element, right? It's not like sonata in A minor. What does that mean, right? But this has an actual image associated with the music itself. So I took some time and I got some books together and just researched about my piece. Maybe you could even pick up a book on Liszt and just research about him. Why did he do certain things that he did? The last piece of advice I would give to someone who feels like they don't have a lot of time to practice is breaking it up. Some of my students have full-time jobs in extracurriculars. They go to dance, cheerleading, soccer practice, volleyball, everything. And so they go all day long to school and then they have all day long at their extracurriculars. How are they supposed to have any time in the day to practice? Yet they still sign up for piano lessons. I don't know. But sometimes what I tell them is, well, do you have at least 5-10 minutes in the morning? And usually the answer is yes. And so I say, okay, well, why don't you do 10 minutes before you go to school? Just really fast, set the timer. I really swear by timers. Once you set the timer, you kind of forget about it and it kind of motivates you to finish whatever thing you're doing until that bell rings. So I say, just set the timer for 10 minutes in the morning. And then when you get home, I know you might be exhausted. So you could try one of these techniques, do hands separately, do a really easy task, but narrow it down, right? Don't do the whole piece. Don't do it from beginning to end. That's a complete waste of time. You want to isolate certain problem sections and get those sections mastered. That way they won't be problems anymore and you won't stumble over them and you're solving your problems faster. A lot of problems can generally be solved in a 2-minute practice session. Usually when I'm practicing, I'm not practicing 3 hours on one problem. It's usually multiple problems, but each problem gets like 2 minutes per, right? So if you're working on a long piece, they have a lot of problems. So if you only have 5-10 minutes, work on just a couple. It's no problem. You don't have to solve the whole world's problems in a practice session. Sometimes you only get a little bit done, but at least you got something done, and that's better than nothing. All right, let's jump back. During this holiday season, it's pretty busy, so don't stress yourself out too much, but definitely get that piano practice done, because remember, piano is a long-term game, right? You want to dedicate you want to at least touch the piano every single day if you want to get better. Don't take extensive amounts of breaks. I mean, it's fine if you don't practice piano for 1 week or 2 weeks, but once you stop using it, you lose it. So make sure you at least get on that piano sometimes. Don't stress yourself out. The little bit matters. I hope that encourages you to continue your piano practice, and thanks so much for tuning in once again. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.